"Kiss him," Jenna whispered, "or admit you're too scared to do anything bold." At the crowded Chicago bar, laughter rolled around Amelia Hart like broken glass, sharp enough to sting but familiar enough that she kept smiling. Amelia was 29, plus size, soft-faced, and exhausted from spending years pretending cruel jokes did not reach the tender places she protected. She worked double shifts as a hotel pastry chef, paid her mother's medical bills, and still carried the quiet shame left by an ex who had called her beautiful only when nobody else could hear. Tonight, her co-workers had dragged her out after closing, promising fun, then turned her loneliness into entertainment with a childish dare. Across the room, the man they had chosen sat alone beneath amber light, dressed in a black suit that looked more expensive than Amelia's yearly rent. His name was Luca Moretti, though Amelia did not know it, and in Chicago's hidden world he was the Mafia Boss, whose silence ended arguments faster than threats. Wealthy, feared, and impossible to read, Luca had survived betrayal by his own brother, and now trusted contracts, locked doors, and loaded rooms more than affection. He had not smiled once. He had not touched his drink. 3 men near the entrance watched him without blinking, and every bartender seemed careful not to make sudden movements. Amelia noticed all of it, but Jenna shoved a $20 bill into her palm and laughed loudly enough for nearby strangers to turn. "Come on, Amy. He looks miserable, you look desperate, and maybe 2 problems can cancel each other out." The table erupted. Heat climbed Amelia's neck, but she refused to give them the satisfaction of watching her shrink. She set the money down, lifted her chin and crossed the bar while her heart struck against her ribs like a fist on a locked door. With every step, Luca's gaze sharpened. He saw the forced courage, the trembling fingers, the smile she wore like armor, and the way the people behind her waited for humiliation. Most women approached Luca because they knew exactly who he was. This woman approached as if walking toward a storm she had already decided would not break her. Amelia stopped 2 feet from his table. Up close, she saw a thin scar beside his mouth, dark eyes colder than winter over Lake Michigan, and a wedding ring hanging from a chain beneath his collar. Grief, she thought, not arrogance. That realization softened her voice. "I'm sorry, my friends dared me to kiss the coldest man in the bar." One of Luca's guards shifted forward, but Luca raised one finger, stopping him instantly. Amelia glanced back at the laughing table, then faced Luca again. "You can say no. Honestly, I hope you do, because I don't make a habit of kissing strangers for people who enjoy embarrassing me." Something changed in his expression, almost too small to notice. No one spoke to Luca Moretti with honesty unless they were brave, foolish, or dying. Amelia seemed like none of those things, and somehow all 3. "What is your name?" he asked. His voice was low, controlled, and quiet enough that she leaned closer. "Amelia Hart. And do you always let cruel people decide what you do with your mouth?" Her cheeks warmed, yet she held his gaze. "Only when I'm tired of letting them decide how small I should feel." Behind her, Jenna called, "Is he rejecting you already?" Luca looked past Amelia, and the entire room seemed to lose its air. He rose slowly, towering over the table, but instead of touching Amelia, he removed his jacket and placed it around her shoulders with careful hands. The gesture stunned her more than a kiss could have. Then he faced the laughing co-workers. "The dare is over," Luca said, his tone flat enough to chill the room. "You will use her name with respect, pay her tab, and leave before I decide your laughter costs more than you can afford." Amelia turned toward him, shocked by the protection in a stranger's eyes when his gaze dropped to the fading bruise around her wrist. His face hardened. "Who did that to you, Amelia, tonight?" Amelia's fingers tightened around Luca's jacket, the expensive wool still warm from his body. "It's nothing," she said, but the lie came too quickly. Luca did not raise his voice. He did not need to. Bruises are never nothing when someone is afraid to name the hand that left them. The laughter behind Amelia had vanished. Jenna stared at the floor, while the others hurried to gather their purses beneath the silent attention of Luca's guards. Amelia looked toward the exit, embarrassed that a room full of strangers now knew she had been hurt. "My supervisor grabbed me after my shift," she admitted. "I refused to sign an inventory report that wasn't accurate. He said women like me should be grateful anyone gave them a job." Luca's jaw tightened, but his gaze remained gentle when it returned to her. What hotel? Why? Because a man who puts his hands on an employee should explain himself. Amelia stepped back. No, I don't need you frightening him for me. One of the guards almost smiled, as though nobody had refused Luca Moretti so directly in years. Luca studied her with something between surprise and respect. You think I frighten people? Everyone in this bar looks like they're waiting for your permission to breathe. And yet you walked over here. I didn't know better. You still haven't run. Amelia glanced at the exit. I'm considering it. Luca's mouth nearly curved, but before he could answer, a server approached with a fresh glass of bourbon. The young man's hand trembled as he placed it on the table. Amelia noticed a faint white residue along the rim and a folded napkin hiding something metallic beneath his tray. Years of working in a hotel kitchen had taught her to notice contamination before it reached a guest. Without thinking, she struck the glass from Luca's hand. It shattered across the dark wooden floor. Two guards reached beneath their jackets. The server turned pale and bolted toward the kitchen. Luca caught Amelia around the waist before she slipped on the spilled bourbon, holding her close enough that she felt the controlled strength in his arms. For one suspended second, the noisy bar disappeared. His face was inches from hers, his expression no longer cold but sharply alert. Why did you do that? There was powder on the glass. Luca released her carefully and gave one quiet order. Bring him back alive. His men moved instantly. The front doors locked, the music stopped, and every customer froze. Amelia stared at Luca as the truth settled over her. This was not simply a wealthy man with intimidating friends. This was someone whose words became law the moment he spoke them. The bartender hurried forward, visibly shaken. Mr. Moretti, I swear I didn't authorize another drink. Amelia's breath caught. Moretti. She knew the name from whispered stories at the hotel, from private meetings held behind guarded doors, from guests who lowered their voices whenever the Moretti family arrived. You're Luca Moretti, she said. He looked at her without denying it. You've heard of me. Enough to know I should leave. She pulled his jacket from her shoulders, but he caught the fabric before it fell. He did not grab her wrist or block her path. He simply lifted the jacket and settled it around her again, his movements unexpectedly patient. Someone tried to poison me while you were standing beside me. Until I know whether they saw your face, you are not walking into a dark parking lot alone. That sounds like an order. It is protection. Men often confuse those two. The words struck something hidden behind his eyes. Luca stepped aside, giving her a clear path to the door. Then choose. My driver can take you home. One of my men can call a cab and follow at a distance, or you can walk out alone. I will not stop you. Amelia looked at the unlocked space he had left for her and realized he meant it. He possessed enough power to control the entire room, yet he was allowing her to decide. A cab, she said. At a distance. Luca nodded once. Done. Minutes later they stood beneath the bar's awning as cold rain streaked the Chicago streets. Amelia gave the driver her address. He then paused when Luca quietly asked, Why did you save me? She looked back at him. Because I knew something was wrong. You could have stayed silent. Amelia's expression softened with sadness. Other people's cruelty doesn't give me permission to become cruel too. Luca watched the cab pull away, her words cutting deeper than any threat. Then his guard emerged from the bar, holding the server's phone. We found the payment message, he said. The person who ordered the poison also sent a photograph of the woman. Luca looked down at the screen. It was Amelia leaving her hotel only hours earlier, and beneath it were 6 words that turned his blood cold. She knows where the ledger is. The cab had travelled less than 3 blocks when black headlights appeared behind it, matching every turn through the rain-slicked streets. Amelia noticed because the same sedan had been parked outside the hotel when her supervisor bruised her wrist. Don't go home, she told the driver, her voice tightening. Turn toward Michigan Avenue. The sedan accelerated. Before the driver could respond, another vehicle slid between them, forcing the pursuer away without a collision. Amelia recognized Luca's guard behind the wheel. Her phone rang from an unknown number. You saw them, Luca said. Yes. My car is beside you. Get in. You promised to follow at a distance. And you promised nothing, which is why I'm asking instead of ordering." The cab stopped beneath the bright entrance of a closed department store. Luca stepped from his armoured SUV into the rain, alone and unarmed as far as Amelia could see, though his men watched from across the street. He opened the door but did not touch her. "Someone has your photograph and believes you know about a ledger. Until we understand why, nowhere connected to your name is safe." Amelia stared at him. "I don't know any ledger." "Then someone is willing to hurt you for something you don't have." That frightened her more than the truth would have. She entered the SUV, keeping Luca's jacket wrapped around her shoulders. Inside, warm amber lights softened the hard lines of his face. He sat across from her rather than beside her, leaving space between them. "Tell me about your hotel," he said. "The private meetings, unusual deliveries, anything your supervisor wanted hidden." Amelia hesitated. "Daniel Voss manages food operations. For months inventory disappeared, but the invoices kept growing. Tonight he demanded I approve a shipment of imported wine that never reached the kitchen. Did you keep proof?" "Photographs of the invoices." Luca's eyes sharpened. "Where?" "On my phone." She unlocked it, but the album was empty. Every image had been remotely deleted. A message appeared across the screen before she could speak. "Come back to the hotel, or your mother loses more than her treatment." Amelia went still. Luca noticed the colour leave her face. "Your mother?" "She receives dialysis at a private clinic twice a week. Daniel helped arrange a charity discount." Her voice cracked with sudden understanding. "He knows her schedule." Luca moved closer, then stopped before entering her space. "Look at me, Amelia." She forced herself to meet his eyes. "No one will touch your mother." "You can't promise that." "I do not make promises I cannot keep." He called one of his men and ordered protection placed at the clinic without disrupting her mother's care. Amelia hated how relieved she felt, because relief made trust tempting, and trust had always cost her. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. "Because the threat began with me, or because you think I'm useful?" Luca accepted the accusation without anger. "Both can be true, but usefulness is not why I put my jacket around you." The answer settled between them, intimate and dangerous. Before Amelia could respond, the SUV entered the underground garage of Moretti Tower. Upstairs, Luca led her into a secure office overlooking Chicago. Floor-to-ceiling windows reflected them standing several feet apart. The feared Mafia Boss in a dark shirt and the curvy pastry chef wrapped in his coat. On the desk waited the server's phone and a printed photograph taken inside Amelia's hotel kitchen. In it, she was kneeling beside a broken wine crate, holding a small black book she barely remembered finding. "That isn't a ledger," she said. "It was a reservation notebook. Daniel took it from me." Luca enlarged the photograph. A gold emblem had been stamped on the cover, the symbol of the Belandi family, his most dangerous rival. "That book records payments, judges, police officers, businesses," Luca said. "Enough secrets to collapse an empire." Amelia's stomach tightened. "I never opened it." "Daniel does not know that." A guard entered carrying security footage from the hotel. The video showed Daniel planting expensive bottles inside Amelia's locker, then typing a report accusing her of theft. The door opened again, and Jenna stepped into the office, soaked from the rain and trembling. Amelia stared at her co-worker. "What are you doing here?" Jenna began crying. "Daniel paid me to bring you to the bar. He chose the dare. He chose Luca." Luca's expression turned lethal. "Why?" Jenna placed a second phone on the desk. "Because while everyone watched Amelia kiss you, Daniel planned to put the ledger in her apartment and tell the Belandis she stole it for the Morettis." Amelia's humiliation had never been entertainment. It had been a trap designed to start a war. Then the phone rang, and Daniel's voice filled the office. "Bring Amelia to the hotel before midnight, Moretti, or her mother's clinic loses power." "Then cut the power," Luca said into the phone, his voice so calm that Amelia felt the room grow colder. Daniel laughed. "You think I'm bluffing?" "No, I think you believe threatening a sick woman gives you leverage." Luca's gaze never left Amelia. "It only gives me your location." The line went silent for half a second, and that was enough. Luca signaled to his security chief, who began tracing the call, while another guard contacted the clinic. Amelia stepped forward. "My mother is there right now." Luca lowered the phone. "Backup generators are active and my people are already inside." Your people can't protect every machine. They do not need to. I own the company that services them." Amelia stared at him, stunned by the reach of his power, but before relief could settle, Jenna whispered, "Daniel has someone inside the clinic." Luca turned. "Who?" "A maintenance worker named Cole. Daniel paid him for months." The trace appeared on the security screen. The call had come from Amelia's hotel, exactly where Daniel wanted them to go. Luca ended the call and ordered 2 teams to move, but Amelia caught his sleeve. "He expects you to arrive with an army. Then he will be disappointed. No, he wants a war. If the Bellandis believe I stole their ledger for you, every person in that hotel becomes a target." Luca studied her face. Fear was there, but beneath it stood something stronger. "What are you suggesting?" "Let me go inside first." His expression hardened instantly. "No. You said I could choose. Not when your choice places you in front of a man who has already hurt you. And not when your choice brings armed men into a building full of innocent workers." Amelia pulled his jacket tighter around her shoulders. "Daniel thinks I'm frightened and easy to control. Let him keep thinking that." Luca stepped closer until only a foot separated them. "You are not easy to control. Then trust me." The word struck the wound he had hidden for years. His brother had once asked for trust before selling Luca's location to an enemy. Since that night, trust had become a weapon others used against him. Yet Amelia was not asking him to surrender power. She was asking him to share it. Luca looked toward the city lights, then back at her. "You enter through the kitchen. I stay close enough to reach you in 30 seconds. You wear a microphone, and the moment I say leave, you leave. You don't get to order me. Then consider it a condition of my trust." Amelia held his gaze before nodding. 20 minutes later, a black sedan stopped behind the hotel loading dock. Rain hammered the pavement, and midnight was 37 minutes away. Amelia stepped out wearing her chef's coat beneath Luca's jacket. Luca remained beside the car, his face shadowed beneath the security light. "You can still change your mind," he said. "So can you." "I changed mine the moment you knocked that glass from my hand." She looked at him. "About what?" His hand lifted as though he meant to touch her cheek, but he stopped and instead adjusted the microphone hidden near her collar. "About believing everyone eventually chooses themselves." Amelia's breath caught. Then she entered the hotel. The kitchen was empty, except for Daniel, who stood beside the stainless steel counter holding the black ledger. "You brought Moretti," he said. "I came alone. You were never good at lying, and you were never good at hiding theft. That is why you needed my signature." Daniel smiled and slid a folder toward her. Inside were falsified records showing Amelia had diverted thousands of dollars in hotel supplies. "Sign a confession, take the ledger to Luca, and disappear. Your mother keeps her treatment." Amelia did not reach for the pen. "You threatened a hospital because you were afraid of a pastry chef." His smile vanished. "I was afraid of what you saw. I saw you stealing. I saw bottles that never reached storage. I saw private dinners for men who used fake names." She stepped closer. "But I never saw the ledger." Daniel's eyes narrowed. "Then why did you photograph it?" Amelia froze. Only one person had known about those photographs before they were deleted. Daniel could not have accessed her phone without help. A voice sounded from the dark doorway behind him. "Because I told him where to look." Jenna stepped into the light, but this time her tears were gone. She held Amelia's phone and a small pistol aimed at Luca's jacket. "I'm sorry, Amy. Daniel didn't pay me to dare you. The Bellandis did." Amelia's heart dropped. Jenna had not been used by the trap. She had designed it. Daniel opened the ledger, revealing pages filled with names, payments, and hotel room numbers. One name appeared repeatedly beside every shipment and every bribe. Marco Moretti, Luca's dead brother. Amelia stared at the page. "That's impossible." "No," Daniel said. "Marco never died in the betrayal. Luca killed the wrong man and built his empire on a lie." Through the microphone, Luca heard every word. For the first time that night, his breathing changed. Amelia realized the ledger was not merely evidence against an enemy. It was proof that the wound shaping Luca's entire life had been carefully manufactured. Jenna raised the gun higher. "Call him inside, Amelia. And if I refuse, your mother's generator shuts down in 8 minutes." Amelia looked toward the security camera above the door, knowing Luca was watching. Then she did the one thing neither Daniel nor Jenna expected. She grabbed the ledger and hurled it into the industrial sink, where boiling water from a running sanitation line soaked the pages. Daniel lunged toward her, but Amelia slammed the metal rack between them. "Now, Luca," she shouted. The kitchen doors burst open. Luca entered with 2 guards, moving directly toward Amelia instead of the weapon, but Jenna fired. The shot shattered a hanging light, plunging half the kitchen into darkness. Luca reached Amelia, pulled her behind him, and covered her with his body as glass rained across his shoulders. Daniel escaped through the loading corridor with the damaged ledger. Jenna vanished after him. Luca turned, gripping Amelia's arms gently. "Are you hurt?" "No." Her eyes dropped to the blood spreading across his white shirt. "But you are." Luca looked down at the bullet graze along his ribs, then back at the wet pages scattered across the floor. One page remained readable, and at the bottom was an address beside Marco Moretti's name. Amelia lifted it with shaking fingers. The address belonged to her mother's clinic. Luca's hand closed around the page, and for one terrible second the pain in his side seemed to disappear beneath something colder. "My brother used that clinic," he said. Amelia stared at him. "For what?" "To move money through medical charities. If Marco is alive, the clinic is not only a target, it is his safe house." Luca pressed a clean towel against the graze beneath his ribs, but Amelia caught his wrist. "You're bleeding. I've had worse. That doesn't make this nothing." The words echoed what he had told her at the bar, and something softened behind his eyes even as alarms sounded through the hotel. His security chief rushed in. Daniel and Jenna took the south stairwell. "We have vehicles moving toward the clinic." Luca turned toward the exit. "Prepare the convoy." Amelia stepped in front of him. "No convoy. That is exactly what Marco wants." "Your mother has less than 8 minutes before they can compromise the generator. Then we move fast, not loud." Luca looked at the woman everyone had treated as weak and saw no hesitation in her face. She was frightened, but she was thinking. "The clinic has a service tunnel," Amelia continued. "It connects to the old parking structure behind the pharmacy. I used it during construction last winter when the main entrance was closed." Luca's men exchanged glances. "That tunnel won't appear on current building plans," she said. "We can reach the dialysis floor without crossing the lobby." Luca gave one sharp nod. "You stay behind me. We face this together." Their eyes locked, and for once he did not argue. They reached the clinic with 12 minutes remaining before midnight. Luca entered the service tunnel with Amelia and 2 guards while the rest of his men created a distraction outside. Fluorescent lights flickered above damp concrete walls. Luca's wounds slowed him, but he refused assistance until Amelia slid beneath his arm and steadied him. "Don't confuse this with weakness," she whispered. "I wouldn't dare." For the first time that night, a faint smile touched his mouth. At the tunnel's end, they found a maintenance room filled with stolen medical supplies, forged invoices, and photographs of Amelia taken over several months. One image showed her carrying groceries to her mother's apartment. Another showed her crying alone behind the hotel after Daniel humiliated her during a staff meeting. Luca's face hardened. "They studied you. Because Daniel needed someone nobody would believe." Amelia looked at the wall of photographs. "They thought being overlooked made me invisible." She tore one image down. They were wrong. A monitor on the desk suddenly came alive. Marco Moretti appeared on the screen, older than Luca remembered, with the same dark eyes but none of the restraint. "Hello, brother." Luca went still. "You should have stayed dead." Marco smiled. "You built a kingdom from my disappearance. I wanted to see whether you deserved it." The camera widened, revealing Amelia's mother asleep in a treatment chair while Jenna stood nearby with her hand on the generator controls. Amelia stepped toward the screen. "Leave her out of this." Marco's attention shifted to her. "So this is the woman who ruined the poison, destroyed the ledger, and made Luca forget how to think." "No," Amelia said. "I reminded him what matters." Marco's smile faded. "Bring me the surviving ledger page and sign control of the Moretti shipping routes over to me. Do it before midnight, or the clinic goes dark." Luca checked the clock. 4 minutes remained. "You want my empire?" "I want you to choose, power or her family." Luca pulled a pen from his pocket without hesitation. Amelia grabbed his hand. No, if you sign, he owns the routes and every person connected to them. Your mother lives, and how many mothers suffer after Marco takes control? Her voice trembled, but she did not release him. I won't let him use my fear to make you surrender everything. I can rebuild an empire. Luca stepped closer, lowering his voice only for her. I cannot rebuild you if this destroys you. Amelia's eyes filled, but she held firm. Then trust me one more time. She studied the maintenance records and noticed something Daniel had missed. The clinic's dialysis machines were connected to independent battery units capable of running for 20 minutes after a power failure. The generator threat had always been a bluff designed to force Luca's signature. My mother won't die when the power cuts, Amelia said. Marco needs us to believe she will. Luca looked at the documents, then at the screen. You're certain? I checked those backup units every week when I brought her here. We have time. Midnight arrived. Jenna pulled the switch. The clinic went dark, but emergency lights flickered on and the treatment monitors continued beeping steadily. Marco's confidence vanished. Luca faced the camera. You built your final move on the assumption she was too frightened to think. His voice became deadly calm. That was your mistake. The guards cut through the locked door to the dialysis floor. Amelia reached her mother first, while Luca disarmed Jenna's accomplice without firing a shot. Jenna backed toward the exit, but Amelia stood between her and the treatment chairs. You used my kindness because you thought I would never fight back, Amelia said. Kindness is not surrender. Jenna dropped the switch and raised her hands. Daniel tried to escape through the pharmacy corridor carrying the damaged ledger, but Luca's men stopped him at the tunnel entrance. Marco, however, had already fled the building. On the security monitor, a black vehicle sped away toward the river. Luca's chief handed him a recovered phone. Marco left one message. He has explosives beneath the hotel ballroom where the Moretti Council is meeting in 10 minutes. Luca looked at Amelia, then at the route map on the screen. Saving the council meant walking directly into Marco's trap. Amelia took Luca's hand in front of everyone. You chose my family, she said. Now we save yours. The black SUV tore through downtown Chicago while Luca pressed a fresh bandage against his side and Amelia studied the hotel's emergency plans on a tablet. The ballroom is above the main kitchen, she said. If Marco planted explosives beneath it, they're probably hidden near the old gas lines. Luca looked at her with quiet admiration. Hours earlier, Amelia had been a woman crossing a bar because cruel co-workers dared her to kiss a stranger. Now she was racing toward danger beside the most feared mafia boss in the city, not because she wanted power, but because innocent lives depended on her courage. The council will not leave because I warn them, Luca said. Marco has spent years teaching them to doubt me. Amelia met his eyes. Then don't ask them to trust you. Show them the truth. They arrived with 6 minutes remaining. Through the ballroom windows, powerful men in expensive suits gathered around a long table, arguing over who would control the Moretti Empire if Luca failed to appear. Daniel's falsified documents had already reached them, and Amelia's name appeared across every page as the woman who had supposedly stolen from the family. When Luca entered with Amelia beside him, the room erupted. You brought the thief here? One councilman demanded. Amelia's shoulders stiffened, but Luca stepped closer until their arms touched. Her name is Amelia Hart, he said, and she has shown more loyalty tonight than every man accusing her. He placed the surviving ledger page on the table and played Marco's recorded message through the ballroom speakers. The room fell silent as Marco admitted to staging his death, poisoning Luca, manipulating Daniel, and threatening Amelia's mother. Then the lights flickered. Amelia smelled something faint beneath the perfume and cigar smoke. Not gas, almonds and heated plastic. The explosives aren't below us, she said. They're inside the lighting controls. A red indicator blinked behind the stage curtains. 3 minutes remained. Luca ordered the ballroom evacuated, but one councilman blocked the doors. This could be another trick to seize control. Luca did not threaten him. He simply removed the Moretti signet ring from his hand and placed it on the table. Keep the Empire, he said. I am getting her and everyone else out alive. That choice broke the council's resistance. Men who had feared Luca's power finally understood the strength beneath it. The doors opened and guests flooded into the hallway. Amelia stayed behind, tracing the control wires toward a service panel. "You should go," Luca told her. "So should you." "I will not leave you." "Then stop arguing and hold the flashlight." Together, they found the trigger attached to the hotel's fire alarm system. Cutting the wrong wire would activate it immediately. Amelia remembered Daniel's missing wine shipments and realized the same supplier had delivered electrical equipment to the ballroom that morning. She searched the invoice records and found the installation code hidden in the shipment number. "Blue wire, then white," she said. Luca trusted her without hesitation. He cut the first wire. The timer stopped at 11 seconds. For one breathless moment, neither moved. Then Amelia laughed through her tears and Luca pulled her against his chest, holding her as though the entire city had disappeared. "You trusted me," she whispered, "with my life. That was reckless. It was the smartest decision I made tonight." Police officers and Luca's security team arrested Daniel outside the loading dock and found Marco hiding in the riverfront parking garage. Jenna surrendered and agreed to testify, revealing every account, bribe, and threat connected to the conspiracy. Luca refused to bury the evidence. He turned the records over to federal investigators, dissolved the criminal partnerships Marco had created, and converted the Moretti businesses into legitimate companies that no longer depended on fear. Daniel's accusations against Amelia were publicly withdrawn. Her hotel issued a formal apology, and the employees who had laughed at her watched as she was offered control of the entire pastry department. Amelia accepted only after demanding protections for every worker Daniel had intimidated. Weeks later, her mother completed treatment safely at a new clinic funded through a transparent charitable foundation. On the opening night of Amelia's bakery, Luca arrived after closing and found her standing before the front window in a deep red dress, no longer pulling fabric around herself or apologizing for taking up space. "The coldest man in the bar," she teased, "and the woman who never kissed him." Luca stepped closer, his expression soft only for her. "You had dared to kiss a stranger. I would rather you choose the man." Amelia placed one hand against his chest. "I choose the man who protected my dignity before asking for my heart." He lowered his forehead to hers. "And I choose the woman who saved my life, my family, and the part of me I thought had died." Their first kiss was not a dare, a performance, or a payment. It was a promise made in warm light, freely chosen by two wounded people who had finally found safety in each other. Amelia had never needed to become smaller to be loved, and Luca had never needed to remain cold to stay strong. Sometimes the person the world underestimates becomes the only one brave enough to change everything. Would you have taken the dare that brought Amelia and Luca together? Share your answer and subscribe to the channel for more powerful Mafia Boss stories about courage, protection, and unexpected love.